All right. So, welcome everybody to another cute session for teams, champions using teams effectively. You all are here to either hear me and Stacy geek out on some topic, or because you have a question of your own to ask, and we are happy to do either. So, feel free even now to raise your hand, throw something in the chat or anything if you came here with a burning question that you wanted to ask or have discussed. We're happy to accept those. In terms of pre-made comments, um, it's kind of a week to week thing. It's either usually like what have I talked about lately with customers, or what has gone on in my head lately. And for me, one topic that recently came up with a customer is really a big one for all of us, and it's this concept of the hybrid meeting. And what does that look like for us as people start to go back to the office and some don't. And not that I'm about to, blow your mind with anything revolutionary here. Maybe I don't want to build up the topic too much for myself here, but I just thought it was an interesting one, especially as it relates to teams and really in terms of virtual meetings in general. And so this concept is one I, can't really demo, but I did want to bring up some of the, info. Microsoft are certainly working on that topic, and have a few recent articles that speak to our Teams rooms. Let me just do a search here. And so we certainly have, I think this is maybe one of the more recent ones, certainly have some ideas on the topic, including technology. Like I believe this is called the front room, or front of the room concept or something like that. If you do have the ability to have a fancy meeting room like this, the ability for people to see the remote participant. Actually, I'm not even sharing, am I? I forgot to hit share. I'm sitting here referencing stuff on my screen. Let me, sorry. All right, that's probably a little better for you. So what I did was typed in, just searched for hybrid meetings under the Microsoft.com domain. And this first one is one of our latest ones. And what I was referring to was this image here, a fancy Teams meeting room with this concept of basically having those remote attendees be on screen, in a way that the in-person participants as well as the remote participants can have a good experience. And the main thought I had about this that I wanted to share is just this concept that some may find strange, but maybe it's the times we live in. But even as many of us come into the physical conference room, the idea that we may come into that conference room, and because we have remote participants, we'll still bring our laptops, join the meeting on our laptop, and turn our cameras on, even though we're in a meeting in a room with a big fancy camera, big fancy screen. Turning on our laptops will help still give the remote participants the face-to-face, a video feed for each person's face at the table, as opposed to them only having a view of the large room. And certainly we got fancy cameras that zoom in on the person talking and all of that. And so I guess if your room is fancy enough, maybe you may do something different. But not only just to show your face, but also there's a meeting chat will probably still happen, that side chat as the meeting's going on. You want to be able to maybe interact with that, or any of the things that, if somebody throws a poll into the meeting. So all of those things. So I feel like we'll go to these hybrid meetings, and the need for us to still have a PC in front of us, as opposed to just taking, pen and pad into the fancy conference room and then just letting the fancy hardware do the work. I feel like we'll still need that PC in front of us. So, interested in comments. That's certainly not, gospel per se. That's just a thought. And it's some things I've seen other people, say online, because everybody's trying to figure this out. as we start to go back into meetings. So that was a concept in a small conversation I had with a customer as they were kind of talking about the same thing and talking about the challenge of addressing their in-person audience as well as their remote audience. So just a thought there. I think I saw a question come in. Okay, yeah. So any thoughts on that hybrid meeting concept or question? You want to come off mute?
I've read about that concept quite a while ago, before it actually started becoming more prevalent. And the benefit of having a one person, one laptop or PC approach to meeting participation is it creates a much more inclusive environment, and it levels the playing field so that there isn't a benefit to being in the office versus being, working remotely, wherever that might be. And I think it really, I mean, I've been in any number of meetings in my career in person where people are just zoned out. The computer allows for a more active participation regardless of what room you happen to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when we start to incorporate all the enhancements that are being put forth in the tools to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you bring up a good point. There's two scenarios you don't want to happen. Both the remote and the in-person have a potential advantage, and advantage might be the right word, but that remote participant, if they're not engaged correctly, has the advantage of the multitasking that we tend to do when we're not on camera and so forth, that your typical in-person can't do quite so easily because everybody's looking at you. So we don't want that going on. But then we also don't want the in-person folks, having side conversations, which sometimes are good and worth sharing, and or getting the full value of all the body language and whatnot. So these are these little caveats, these little nuances that we didn't have to think about that much before, that now I think are going to come into play. So it's an interesting topic. It's an interesting time. Yeah, so the articles that are out there are certainly worth a read, especially if you are one involved in any of the decisions, the coming, back to work decisions or anything related to your org.
I do have one question. We're faced right now with a situation where we're trying to do an orientation or onboarding experience for folks, and the preference is for people to come to a centralized location, that there would be some streaming that happens into the room. But we're faced with the fact that there are some people within our organization that, because of the job that they do, they don't have a need for a laptop or a computer. And so it's making it difficult to incorporate them fully into the process when they don't have the advantage of being connected in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's certainly a large community, frontline workers and whatnot that might fall into that category. I wonder if the mobile aspect of Teams, the mobile phone, might be something that can help there. No, I've never been issued a PC. I don't need it, but I certainly have my phone. And if it's just for, bringing my face into the meeting or seeing meeting chat and meeting specific stuff, thankfully the phone app, the mobile app for Teams is pretty robust, and maybe that can help in that situation. Otherwise, they probably need to depend on the fancy meeting rooms, as well, and seeing chat maybe up on the screen and things like that. So, yeah, that's definitely another nuance to this.
My latest suggestion with this is really to go old school, in that if we're asking them to come to the room, actually have a physical name tent there. And so there's some issues about using the phone on premises in some of our sites, and it's contrary to policy. So you don't want to introduce a conflict there that could potentially, create problems down the road. But the solution was the attendance and stuff could be taken by virtue of the name tents, but then the conversation starter that we wanted would be a paper version of it on the inside, and then try to use either QR codes or whatever to link them to completing that electronically, maybe outside of that environment. But in the absence of all that, at least you still have the paper that you could then link back to some record for some future conversation with them.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to get real creative in that.
Absolutely. Michelle, did you have a comment? You're on mute. I see your hand up.
Yes, I have. I'm sorry. I have a puppy. Yeah.
Yep.
I locked her out of the room. But anyway, hi, thank you for doing this. My group conducts audits, and up until COVID, we were doing them on site, but we've been able to do them online using Teams, which is awesome. We started out with WebEx, and then I'm with the state. So then we were told we needed to use Teams. We were scared to death, and it works out really nice. The things we're looking for now are, I want to give the guys a list of controls they can set up before they create, while they're creating the meeting, before they send the invitation, because sometimes you want to be able to mute everybody, or you want to be able to admit people, and with WebEx, and I'm certainly not comparing. I like Teams just as much, if not more. But with WebEx, we had more controls over the attendees as the presenter.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get back to that. And the other thing that's probably even more important, because we are auditors. It's our responsibility to figure out how to control the room anyway. You know what I mean? And we're giving them instructions, and that's working out well. But an overall control would be good. And then my second question, I'll get my questions out of the way, and then I'm sure you can answer them. The other question is, it's an audit, right? So we typically review 3 periods, meaning policy periods. So about 3 years worth of documents. And even WebEx didn't have this, but I'm hoping at some point people understand that when you have a meeting like this, you want to bring in not only a shared screen, which we do, but we also want to be able to hold documents in that event, in that calendar event, to then use for the review prior to the audit. So everything's in one place where the guys are using everything, Dropbox, all the words I don't. So is there any functionality for that?
Yeah, I think I've got great answers for all of that. If I understand it correctly. Yeah. So
all right, I'll get off the microphone and let you.
Yeah. So what you should be seeing right now is he's talking about controlling different aspects of the attendees of the meeting, and this is your typical meeting options for a meeting. I got here. This who can present is probably a key one too. When I say something like only me, or in the case of this meeting, I said specific people, and I added Stacy. That makes me and her the presenters or organizers, and it makes everyone else attendees. And then options like these kick in for all attendees. So in many meetings that I have where I'm trying to control the room, I will make only myself be a presenter, and that then puts everyone else in a position that I can manage their options a little better. So this is an important one too. So these options should really help. Again, these options are available even when the meeting starts. In fact, let me jump in just so you can see that. I'll jump into this meeting, and those same meeting options are actually right within the meeting. If we come to the 3 dots, meeting options, and then I get them right here on the side. What did I hit a wrong button. And again, I can change them on the fly, hit save, and they will apply. So that should help. your second question about files is a good one that I hear often as well. And I'll try to answer it at the high level by saying, one, if your meetings involve external, like anonymous folks, I agree that the challenge of files in your meetings becomes a little more daunting, because this chat area will suddenly kind of could lose your upload button. And I think it's on purpose, right? Teams are saying, hey, this was a family meeting, but suddenly some strangers came in. I'm not going to let strangers start throwing any kind of files in the chat. Let me lock this down a little. In the case, though, if you have the fortune of being able to have maybe a meeting where everyone's already in the org or guests of your org, and it can be like, for instance, a channel meeting, right? A meeting that you're like having like here, you'll find a much better file experience where basically Teams knows everyone and is allowing those file uploads. And of course, anybody that can access this meeting or is a member of this team is then a member of the files area. And so all the files in your case for that audit could be here, and everyone would have access to them. You could, link them up in the meeting chat and everything. So that's my short answer, is that the file experience is a lot nicer when it's a Teams meeting or everyone's in the org or in the team. If it's a mix of anonymous folks, that's where you might find some challenges, and I've seen this tons with customers. The middle road is to just remember that you can use SharePoint just like people are using Dropbox today. I mean, any folder can be shared out more broadly to even the anonymous folks in the meeting, and then use that area as the place where you're doing your file stuff. Won't be fully like integrated into the chat area, but it would work, right? It would be a way to get everybody the document. So just a reminder that if Dropbox is like the de facto that people go to for sharing broadly, SharePoint is the same kind of concept. It's cloud storage with the ability to share broadly. So keep that in mind. I've seen people use that as a way of doing files in a meeting that has a mixed audience.
And see, that is all really good information. I heard the word channel, and when the guys set up the meeting, the admin does it, okay, and he invites all the audit attendees that are supposed to be there from the org. So we don't have anonymous. So that's one thing that's out.
Mm-hmm.
So I envision, okay, I invite everybody here to an audit, and you've got to give me those 3 years of documents. So are you saying set up a channel then after the meeting is established?
So I'm suggesting, one, your meeting could be like this one here, this test one, could be set up in a channel ahead of time. And as such, you then have the ability, for instance, ahead of the meeting, I could upload a document here as part of this chat, and it would be, when everyone joins the meeting, it would be sitting right there in their chat experience. I could also add it to the files area, but I know that anybody who's part of this meeting has access to any of the files that I'm either adding here or maybe pointing to from the files area. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And they're the ones that are going to add the documents. So it's available to them.
Yeah, anybody in the team has the ability to upload new documents here. And again, if they put them here as part of the chat, they're basically adding them to the meeting, and people, when they come in the meeting or even when they look at it here in the channel, they'll see those documents just embedded very nice and neatly in the chat. So I'm on a board of a nonprofit, and we have our meetings in Teams, and we do the same thing. There's about 6 or 7 documents related to that meeting that we need to discuss. And I love just coming into the meeting and seeing them right there. People can click them, share them out. So it's a much more elegant experience when everyone, and it sounds like you're fortunate, everyone's part of the org. They should have a really great experience with that file, experience, because they've all got access. You can upload ahead of time, and once everybody jumps in, it'll be right there waiting for them.
Is there a step-by-step I can share with the guys on setting that up?
Maybe I could make a quick video. Maybe me and Stacy.
Oh, we love videos.
Yeah.
Even dumb people like me can follow the video if I play it 5 times.
Yeah, that'd be an easy video to make. I think me and Stacy would have fun with that one. So
Oh my gosh, I would love that. That would that solves my two issues. I mean, I have to say, and you should take it back to Teams. It's doing very well for us. We, other than a couple end users, not having connectivity or whatever, we have not had problems. We have not lost an audit yet. We did 200 this year. So
awesome.
Wow.
yeah. Thank you very much. I'm done talking.
Great. Christiana, I see your hand up.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So I was originally part of Jeff Hicks' team, and I do both now. More
Okay.
information works better for me. So I'm with the New York City Department of Finance.
Yep.
And I am a very heavy user of Teams and Teams Live. And my inquiry this morning is more for Teams Live. Okay. So back in about May, Teams Live had this. We can use Teams Live in such a way where we can show multiple presenters at the same time by sharing the screen of one of the presenters. Right. So the producer would share the screen of one of the presenters, and it was super clean, meaning all you saw were the presenter views.
Mhm.
Sometime in about June or July, however, updates occurred. And now when you share the presenter view, what you see is the Teams interface on the screen. So would it help if I were to share my screen to show what I'm referring to?
Yeah, if you're comfortable with I
Yeah.
mean, we are recording. If you're
Yes,
comfortable
I
with
understand.
sharing, yeah, that works for me.
All right. So let me just briefly share my screen so you can see. Oh, guess who doesn't have the ability to share? I don't
Hmm.
have the ability to share.
Oh, you're right. Let me fix that with
Sure.
real-time meeting options.
Thank you.
Let me go here and make you a presenter, and you should be good.
Gracias. Yes, I am. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to do this without system audio since, we're just referring to what needs to be seen.
Right.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So this is the video. And this was our banking commission back on 5/26.
Mhm.
And this was our main presenter on the left. And so we wanted to give her the larger screen. And
Mhm.
there was no preset function to do that. So what we did through many takes, if you will, many practices, was we realized that having the person who we anticipated to be the main speaker come on first and keep their camera on, and have the two secondary speakers keep their camera off and only turn it on when it was time to present,
Mhm.
enabled our primary presenter, if you will, to take up the larger area in an odd numbered space.
Hmm.
If we had an even amount of speakers, everyone would have an equal amount of space.
Mhm.
Okay, so this was good. We worked with it. All right. So now next, taking that down, and I'm gonna put up. This is more recent. All right. So as you can see here, I'm just going to pause. All right, so this is the Mayor's Public Engagement Unit, and someone from Department of Finance's outreach team is interviewing this person. But now all of a sudden the interface has changed. Now it's showing the profile images of persons. We were producers. So this is Aziz AA and myself. We were producers and we were on mute. Our cameras were off,
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, this Aziz was a presenter, I was a producer, and Aziz was sharing his presenter view, which he had also done in the Banking Commission meeting.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason, this time the entire Teams Live interface was showing. He didn't have the ability to go full screen as he was able to do before. So up here, we could have clicked on the
Mhm.
ellipsis and it would have given us the full screen or focus feature. But it didn't give him that ability. And then it was showing people who shouldn't be shown because we're not on camera, right?
Mhm.
So bring all of that up. Thank you for allowing me to share. I bring
Mhm.
all of that up to say, is there any way that you can send a message to the engineers so we can get things back to, I guess, how they were in May?
Yeah, and so I think what you're seeing there is dynamic view, which was released in the last couple months or so. So I haven't seen that myself, but that's got to be dynamic view kicking in and changing the experience somewhat. Now, spotlighting and pinning and that kind of thing or do you take advantage of those features as part of deciding who's shown on screen?
So that works in a regular Teams meeting. That
Mhm.
that those features are not available on Teams Live
Okay.
or soon to be webinar.
Right. And so for the person who was the presenter who was showing their screen for the purpose of bringing up two people, um, I wonder if that would help in that case. But yeah, I'm guessing.
So
Yeah.
to help answer that question, yes, we did attempt to do a meeting in a meeting. So we attempted to have a Teams regular meeting
Hmm.
and have a Teams live meeting. And the problem that occurred was you need to use the application on the PC for Teams Live.
Yep.
And in order to not be considered a guest at your own meeting and end up with limited features, you also need to use the applications for Teams Live. And one of them needed to be hosted online.
Yeah.
So we hit a roadblock there.
Yeah, that's one to think about and really for me to play with because I haven't seen that since the days of dynamic view. The one thing I'm thinking about, is there an option for turning your live event into a regular Teams meeting, knowing that you can, disable mics and videos and whatnot, because then you get the full benefit of spotlighting and all that stuff. Is there an option for that?
Right. So for some meetings, yes.
Mhm.
However, for our outreach team and for the Banking Commission, where the main goal of the meeting is to reach as many people as possible,
Mhm.
upwards over 1,000.
Okay.
That's the reason why we do not use Teams meetings and we go to Teams Live because the threshold is 10,000.
Yeah. The other thing I'd say off the top of my head is I do when it does really when it really does matter and you do need people shown in certain ways. I have seen people use, in my words, the fancier approach of like I don't know if you've got an AV team that knows about encoders and OBS and all that good stuff, but then they start getting fancier and working with video sources, and so there are ways to get beautiful views if you've got a fancy AV team or AV resource. But you're right, the out of the box easy button for live events is certainly limited in terms of trying to do side by side folks and whatnot. So you've got me curious now, and I feel like I want to try it and see how the live event experience has changed since Dynamic View. And Stacy, I don't know if you've
Yeah,
tried it. Yeah.
I haven't, but I'm also intrigued and want to do some testing with you, Ricardo.
Yeah. And one of our colleagues, a couple of our colleagues, actually, we will probably both chat with as well. They actually do I think, Stacy, they're still doing it, their weekly webinar related to live events.
Webinar Wednesdays.
Yeah.
I think that is still going. We can
Mhm.
certainly share the information. I can confirm.
Yeah, I don't know if you've got the link handy to put in the chat, but
Yeah,
that their webinar, their session is dedicated to this topic of, large meetings, live event meetings, and the best practices and whatnot. So there are experts in that area, and I suspect they probably have a better answer than I have. So we'll get you that info. But that's a great question. I didn't realize there was, now that we're in the age of dynamic view, that there was a new caveat there. So it's good to know.
Thank you. And just FYI, this came up because we had users that were using WebEx and Zoom,
Mhm.
and they were constantly comparing all of the various platforms. And in Zoom, there is a feature where multiple presenters can be on screen at the same time, but the camera will pick up or feature only the person that's speaking
Yeah.
in the moment, right?
Mhm.
So they were trying to recreate that with Teams, and we did the best that we could do.
Yeah. Understood. Well, that was really good questions there. We're at time. Jim, I saw yours about bots. I don't know if I have a 30-second answer for that one. Maybe we'll try to hit that on the next one. And I'll also read your question, Michelle, and I try to answer that as well. But we're at time here. I want to let you guys go. Check the aka.ms/Group of Teams for the recording of this, and we'll keep these things going next week as well. So great talk today, everyone.